Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Is everything perfect with the audio
Yeah,
and video?
I think. Yeah. Now I'm receiving your voice perfectly. Thank you.
All right, so now let's start the session.
Sure.
Let me see how many people are there. Okay, ma'am, if you agree, can we wait for 1 or 2 more minutes?
Sure.
All right.
Definitely.
Okay, ma'am, so let us begin the session. It's already 5:32, I guess.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so very delightful evening to everyone. Myself, Nandini Jaswal, and I am a final year student of psychology from MGKVP University, Varanasi. And on behalf of Team PsyConnect, I'm going to host the session for you all. So, first of all, I'm so excited to greet you all here today with us, and your presence is truly appreciated. Okay, so already as some of you have attended this month's prior sessions also. So today we have brought another amazing session for you in this series, and you all are aware of today's session title, that is Research and Academia in Psychology. So here we will be gaining insights into one of the most fascinating areas of psychology, that is research, and for that we have Dr. Shubhra Sinha ma'am with us today. So let me give you all a very quick introduction of our guest. Okay, so ma'am earned her undergraduate degree in psychology from MMB, followed by her postgraduate and doctoral degrees in psychology from BHU's main campus. In 2009, she began her tenure as an assistant professor at Vasanta Kanya Mahavidyalaya. With a solid 15 years of teaching experience, she has conducted a cross-cultural research project and has a significant number of empirical papers published in both international and national journals. Additionally, she has authored several book chapters, further establishing her reputation in the academic community. Currently, ma'am is serving at the position of head of department at VK. So, first of all, on behalf of Team PsyConnect and everyone present over here, I extend you a very warm welcome, ma'am. You are truly honored, and we are like delighted to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Nandini. And really, I'm equally excited to be a part of this event. This really give me an opportunity to connect to such wonderful audience young ignited minds, and I would like to thank the organizers, the team PsychConnect, who gave me this opportunity to interact with such, encouraging audience. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so much.
much, ma'am.
So let's begin today's session.
One more thing before starting the session, I would like to request all our listeners that please keep patience till the end of the session. If you'll be having any doubt during this session, you can unmute yourself at the end and ask your doubts. Meanwhile, you can keep typing your questions in the chat box also. So we hope for your interaction and cooperation as well. All right. So now let us begin with our first question. So, ma'am, beginning with a personal one, what inspired you to pursue a career in academics and research in the field of psychology?
Well, if I look back to this journey, I think my own interest and some of my wonderful teachers, their impact pushed me to select this career as my professional option. So obviously, you are very much affected by your teachers, and if you get some good ones, they really change your life in many ways. I was fortunate enough to have such teachers in my school years as well as in my higher education years, and they really impacted my life in multiple ways. Moreover, I myself was very much interested in understanding phenomena, and I tried to explain it to others as well. So my peers used to say that, okay, you explained well. So somehow these things went into my mind deep, and I decided to opt it as my career.
I agree with you. Teachers play the most crucial role in a student's life too. Yeah. All right. So, could you tell us about your journey and the important steps that got you to where you are in your academic and research career today?
Yes, of course. My love for psychology began in the year I was studying in class 10th. So, my mother had studied psychology up to her graduation, and she used to tell me the experiments which I studied later on, like that Pavlov's experiment, and about Freud, and about people like Skinner, Bandura, in the form of stories. So I just got fascinated about these experiments, and I decided, okay, if I get a chance, I will pursue this. So I opted psychology in as a minor subject in my 11th when I was studying science, but this was allowed to be taken as a minor. Then I entered graduation, and I really had a love for this. So I skipped the botany, zoology, chemistry option, which used to be a very lucrative one for science students in BSc. And I opted for zoology, chemistry, psychology. At that time, I was surprised to see the reaction of the teachers who were sitting there for counseling. They asked me that, you really want to uh, take ZC Psi option, you know, uh, just ignoring this BZC, which is there, and this is good for the people who score very high in the entrance examination. What will you do studying psychology? On the other hand, I used to think, oh my god, it is such a wonderful subject, because I had gone through that experiments and something. So I used to think that why people think that psychology is not so good for people who really score high in their entrance examination, and this has to be kept for a lower merit category. So I insisted that no, I genuinely want to take. And then, while going through various papers, my interest increases. Then somehow I don't know, I was not really pushing me myself very hard, but then I got a gold medal in graduation. So that made me understand that perhaps this goes well with my aptitude. So I'm very comfortable doing this subject, and still, so I opted it as an honors subject as well. Then I entered in post graduation in a faculty of social science BHU, and there I got JRF in my master's final year. So once I got JRF, I think that was the first turning point in my career, which uh, almost made me decide that, okay, now I'm going to this and this only. Research was very close to my temperament. Teaching I obviously like since very beginning. So getting JRF was the first turning point. Then I entered into PhD, and luckily I got a very good mentor, a wonderful professor of psychology as my supervisor. And the way he groomed me throughout the years, that also has a very important contribution in where I am today. And very soon after finishing my PhD, I got an opportunity to assist my professor in a cross cultural research project. And then I had of my own one more cross cultural project in which I used to be the co investigator with two more people, one from Germany and another from United States. So all these things gradually made me inclined towards the, you know, where I am today. Maybe.
Wow, wonderful, मैम. अब तो मुझे भी ऐसा रियलाइज हो रहा है that you literally, you know, got interested in
Nandini, I'm not able to hear you properly. So,
uh, are you now able?
yeah.
Yeah. Even अब सुन के मुझे भी ऐसा रियलाइज हो रहा है कि you really got interested into psychology more early in your career, like when you were in your 10th class. That's so
Yes, of course,
wonderful.
because I was introduced to this subject in the form of stories. And in that tender age, na, stories and with such fascinating results, they really cast a very good impression in your mind. So, my love for this subject is really old.
Wow, wonderful. Okay, so next question is like being the head of the department is like already a very responsible job, and I don't think I am at any position कि मैं इस बारे में कुछ बोल भी पाऊँ. But still, can you please tell us कि how do you balance the demands of teaching, conducting research, and other responsibilities in academia all together?
Well, you asked about the administrative responsibility and research in academia, and you forgot one more, that we all have a family as well.
Yeah, true.
So I would like to I would like to add another big aspect to it. And it's like four full time jobs folded into one, practically speaking.
Yeah.
Not very easy, but my personal experience is that if you are really interested in doing something, you get some energy to, push against the obstacles, the situations which you come across with. Your time management really helps, and finally you have to prioritize your assignments, that which one is more important and which is to be attempted first. And then moreover, try to build up a support system, because at the end of the day you are not able to do everything on your own. You need a support system at home as well, at workplace as well. And I am fortunate enough that I got some very strong supporters who helped me throughout the journey. Um, I got a wonderful family who is always ready to stand by me in the time of need. So all these things really make it easier to manage these stuffs. Otherwise, no doubt, this is challenging. Sometimes you feel overworked, sometimes you feel pressed, and then you have to give yourself a window to breathe. You know, you have to provide yourself a time slot to relax and just tell yourself that it's okay. This is just a pressure of time and it will go away fast. So,
Alright, so one more thing is कि हम ऐसा देखते हैं ना कि काफ़ी students like ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट करने के बाद एंड इवन इन सम केसेस इवन पीजी कंप्लीट करने के बाद भी करियर को लेकर के बहुत कंफ्यूज होते हैं कि अभी भी पर्टिकुलर कौन से एरिया को अडेप्ट करना है. सो द क्वेश्चन इज what challenges did you face during your academic journey regarding your career and how did you overcome them?
well, I don't find it very much challenging because of two reasons. My parents used to be very open with me, and we had a very nice system of communication with each other. So, since a very early age, my parents gave me enough freedom to select my own career choices. They never told me that, okay, you have to take this subject or you have to become a doctor because you are studying zoology or biology in your 11th and 12th. They never pushed me to take coachings for, IIT or for medical just because other people are doing it. So, when you get freedom, you always develop a sense of responsibility also, because if you are given a chance to decide for your own, now whatever you decide, the consequences are also going to be your own. Plus, because I used to have a very frank discussion and communication with my parents, so they used to tell me that what happens, what kind of pros and cons are there with what kind of career opportunities. So I also had some good time to think what goes well with my own temperament, with my interest, with my inclination. And because I started early thinking about these issues, so that time, that schooling time, was really helped me a lot. Then I had my focus on this research and teaching aspect, और कहीं पे जा करके I was prepared to do something like this. So by God's grace, I was able to maintain my focus on this particular path. And if you are very much focused, if you continuously inquire about what is required to fetch your goal, to accomplish your goal in your life, and you keep adding the skills and the knowledge and the required things little by little, things become easier for you. Okay, ऐसा तो नहीं होता कि एक दिन में आप एकदम अपने अल्टीमेट गोल को देख ले, लेकिन हाँ, आपका नेक्स्ट स्टेप क्या हो सकता है, आपका नेक्स्ट स्टेप क्या हो सकता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, व्हेन आई वाज स्टडीइंग इन एमए, in MSc actually. So just after taking admission, I started inquiring about कि नेट क्या होता है, उसका सिलेबस क्या होता है. मेरे सीनियर्स जो अटेम्प्ट कर रहे थे, उनमें से कुछ लोगों से बात करती थी. सम ऑफ द थिंग्स यूज टू इम्प्रेस मी, सम ऑफ द थिंग्स मे नॉट. मुझे लगता था कि नहीं, शायद ये अप्रोच नहीं ठीक होगा. बट देन आई हैड समथिंग इन माई माइंड एंड आई kept doing something about it little by little. So I think that was the strategy which made things sorted and easier for me. Otherwise, अगर आप late start करते हो ना, when you are in semester 3 of your masters and then you start thinking about the net syllabus and how you should take the examination and what is the pattern of examination, then you may not get enough time to prepare yourself mentally and academically for that. And that is why I see students struggling to crack net twice or thrice in their career. Otherwise, the BHU syllabus is very good for cracking net examination. Almost all the relevant papers, all the relevant topics are being taught there. Even in our time, when we did not have semester system, we used to study in annual system. Na? We study throughout the year, and then at the end of the year we used to get an examination. So even in that system, we had completed and covered enough of the syllabus which used to come in net papers that time. And I also inquired about the pattern, and I got to know that there would be, in our time, there would be a subjective section of the net examination, which consisted of almost 10 or 12 questions, which you need to attempt in 1.5 hours. So one of my seniors told me that, okay, you will not have any time to think. You will just see the question and you will have to write. Otherwise, you will miss your question. So again, I imbibed one more, trick, that I won't have much time to think about how to structure my answers. So I have to study, and then I had to structure the content in my mind prior entering the hall itself, because then I won't have time. So I think give yourself enough time. That is the key. And don't hesitate in talking to people who know about your career. Please have a healthy communication with your parents, because their opinion may not match with you, but ultimately they have the best interest in their mind, है ना. तो आई थिंक ये जो ओपन कम्युनिकेशन होता है, उससे पेरेंट्स को भी लगता है कि द चाइल्ड इज सिंसियर इनफ. ऐसा नहीं है कि वो सोच नहीं रहा करियर के लिए या वो कर नहीं रहा है, सो दे हैड टू पुश पुश एंड पुश ऑल द टाइम. देन सेलेक्ट योर पीयर ग्रुप, योर कंपनी वेरी केयरफुली, क्योंकि अगर आप ऐसे लोगों के साथ जाते हैं who themselves are not very serious, then that casual approach is going to affect you as well. So I don't find my journey challenging because I started early and I didn't hesitated asking for help. If I didn't know something, I approached people and I asked, okay, how can I do this? They may be my professors or my seniors or whosoever.
राइट मैम, आई एग्री। ऐसा भी होता है ना कि लोग बैचलर्स में चले जाते हैं या इवन बैचलर्स कंप्लीट करने के बाद मास्टर्स में चले जाएं, उनको कोई क्वेरी होती है, थोड़ा वो शाय हो जाते हैं कि व्हाट पीपल माइट थिंक कि आई हैव कंप्लीटेड बैचलर्स एंड आई एम नॉट नोइंग दिस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक। तो एक ऐसा उनको स्टिग्मा टाइप लगता है। सो या, बीइंग अटेंटिव एट अ प्रॉपर टाइम इज वेरी नेसेसरी। So now, ma'am, could you please provide us insights into some of the most fulfilling and rewarding experiences or projects that you have worked on during your research career, and also how those milestones have shaped your professional journey so far?
Well, the most fulfilling experiences, I think, definitely the very first one is my own PhD. Then the cross cultural project I worked in as co investigator. And uh, after that, even my class teaching used to be a very fulfilling experience for me. If I begin with my own PhD, when I entered there, I had a very, hazy idea of what is being done in a PhD program. I know at the end of the PhD, I had to produce a thesis and I would be working with my professors for 3 or 4 years or things like that. But of course, whosoever enters the PhD, even after writing a synopsis, this is something basic we require to submit at the time of our interviews or admission process, but then you don't have a clear idea of what it is all about. Let me tell you honestly. Now you people are very smart. You do dissertations at your PG level or even at UG level. Some of you might have taken it up. But let me tell you, this is just a trailer, and you can't predict whole picture based on this small experience. So when I got in, it was a it was a new world open for me to learn, right from how research, what research is, how to select a very important topic, and how to go about it, research, literature review, and the methodology part and the statistics part and everything. So this itself was a very good learning experience for me, 3 to 4 years. And I tried to make best use of it because it is not like a classroom teaching where you have to finish this much of syllabus and in this much of time and then you will be having an examination. The time limit is quite flexible there and you can extend it up, but the advantage is only if you make best use of this flexible time limit. So while doing your literature review, you may acquire the art of making PPTs or the skills of doing analysis. Another good thing about is that I never hesitated helping other research scholars in pursuing their PhD. We all were contemporary. We used to learn from each other, and whenever I got a chance, for example, many of the research scholars which were working in the same time frame, they asked help for data analysis. And my professor used to say this, that if somebody asks you to help in data analysis or planning the research design or something like that, you should be grateful to the person because you are getting to practice your skills more and more. So don't take it as a burden. Don't think that you are doing something good to them. Rather, think as if they were doing something good to you because they were giving you more and more opportunities to practice your skills. They were giving you opportunities, a variety of opportunities, which you may not have in your own single PhD. and then you have to handle all those difficult type of data sets, or you have to deal with difficult kind of methodological issues and like that. So I never hesitated helping other people, and of course I learned a lot in that process also. Thereafter, when I got the opportunity to do a cross cultural project, I applied in a famous international funding agency, and they used to conduct a session of young scholars of psychology on a particular issue. So, luckily, that year, the theme of that convention matched with my own PhD topic, so I could easily approach them. And when I got the project, I was very happy that everything is done now. What is there? You know, just I have to do it. You know? But when I started doing, I came to know that everything was remaining. Getting that project was just, a small kind of achievement, of course, but uh, a lot remained thereafter. So I started hassling with the things. It was the first time I had to work with the two people. Both were coming from different places on this earth, and we had very different kind of training, as well as we had very different kind of job structure as well. Both were assistant professors, one in United States, the other one in Germany, and I was here in India. So when you join as an assistant professor in any of the Indian university or colleges, you are given a 16 to 18 periods per week to teach, and many other responsibilities, serving in different committees and administrative jobs and many different things. So research was like the third shift when I used to do all my teaching, and then my responsibilities, other allied responsibilities. Then I had to find some time to do my research. On the other hand, the two collaborators, they were also assistant professors that time, young people, but their university system used to think that these people are very new and they have to grow in their research career, so give them less teaching responsibility. Another thought is that they are less experienced, so they may not be able to deliver nicely to the graduate and postgraduate students. So they used to work as assistant professors, assisting a full professor in teaching. So there was a big difference. So they could manage a lot of time for their research stuff, and they were working fast and fast. And I had to really manage some time to work on these issues, and it was very difficult to keep pace with them. Moreover, the second thing I noticed that fortunately I had a very good grilling over my writing skills during PhD, and this was all about my respectable supervisor. Otherwise, that time our universities didn't used to have coursework. Very few of them. Usually, IITs used to have the coursework, and there they used to train the research scholars about their writing skills and this and that. When I started interacting with these two foreign people, I got to know that since graduation, they get lots and lots of writing assignments, right from writing essays to empirical papers to review of literatures, and every semester, two or three, they are writing, and they are being assessed by very experienced people in the field. So I got again I recognized a big difference between what happens in India and what they are doing in uh, United States or other European universities. Then, right from conceptualizing the theme of our research, converting it to research problems, and then finding out objectives, then making hypothesis, everything was like a new experience. I got a PhD degree already, but when I started working in cross cultural setup, it was not all about what happens in India. Had it been like that, perhaps the things would have been very easy for me because I had an experience of doing PhD. But as soon as I started working in three different cultures now, I got to know that how these cultural practices, how these cultural differences are going to affect your research program at every single step. Even we had almost 6 to 8 month negotiation time for finalizing our instruments, and whatever instrument we used to final, it didn't turn up so nicely in all the three cultures. So I had to think, we had to think. That was the first time when I developed research questionnaires for the first time. जो भी हमारे research के constructs थे, जिनके लिए हमें नहीं appropriate tools मिल पाए, especially for the cross cultural paradigm. So we had to design and develop new research questionnaires as well. So that was also a new experience. But this almost 4 to 5 years of you know struggle, I should rather say, जहाँ पे टाइम जोन्स मैच नहीं कर रहे हैं, जहाँ पे आपके पास टाइम मैनेजमेंट मैच नहीं हो रहा है, जहाँ पे इंडिया में उतना अच्छा नेट कनेक्टिविटी नहीं होती थी. सो व्हेन वी यूज्ड टू हैव स्काइप मीटिंग लॉन्ग बैक इन 2009 and 10. So what is going on, that my connection was suddenly glitched and broken, and the other two people were discussing, and then I had to uh, struggle with my fixing up my connections, and then, okay, what happened with you people, and then they used to narrate again to me. So all sort of difficulties were there. We didn't have very much access to online journals and books and resources like that, and they, for them it was no issue. So, of course, but this 4 or 5 years of struggle or learning or whatever you say, it made me confident enough to think that, okay, now I'm capable of handling independent research projects. Because whatever I did myself. There was no one to tell this is correct, there was no one to tell this was not correct. So I had to take my decision, I had to bear the consequences, good or bad, but definitely it made me very much, you can say, mature enough to handle things independently. This was really a turning point in my career. And the third part was teaching. When I started teaching in my classroom, I tried to, you know combine my research experience. I try to broaden my research experience into my teaching. If I'm teaching psychological assessment and there I'm teaching how to develop a questionnaire, then I had enough experience of developing not only for Indian scenarios but for cross cultural scenarios as well. So what kind of problems there may be, if I'm teaching culture and human behavior, then I had already suffered some of the consequences of being in different cultures, and therefore the perhaps I could explain the things in more practical ways with more practical illustrations. And the kind of questions I received from my students and people who listened to me on various occasions, they gave me a wonderful opportunity to think about the issues from a different perspective, because by that time I had developed a perspective of my own. Students who are sitting in front of me from graduation or post graduation classes, they may be looking at the situation from a different perspective, from a person who is new to the world, who had some different kind of ambitions or different kind of plans about it. They perceive the world differently, and because of that, their comments, their questions, they gave me stuff to think. It was like a food for brain, that okay, the situation can be thought in this way also. So all these things somehow complemented my growth and my journey, and they contributed a lot in wherever I am today.
Wonderful, ma'am. Like really, it's inspiring. The problems you faced and the way you beautifully came out of it is truly inspiring. Ma'am, one thing you discussed about empirical paper. Like personally, I know about review papers, proposals, research papers. Can you please brief what is empirical paper?
A bit louder, Nandini, please.
Ma'am, can you please brief what is empirical paper? You discussed about it, Abhi, in your words. So
Yeah.
personally, I know about what is proposals and what is review papers, what is research papers. Can you please brief about what is empirical paper?
See, research papers that we write, they are basically are of two types. One are known as review papers, and the other one is empirical papers. Review paper is a means to review the growth of a particular field, right? Just like writing a review of literature in your thesis. But a review paper is different in a way that you are not only collecting and presenting findings of other researchers, but you are also analyzing them properly, systematically, and you are putting your own thoughts into it, and then you may lead to certain conclusions by reviewing all those things. Empirical paper means a paper which is written on a database, on a primary data. Okay, so if you have a primary data and you are analyzing that data, you are reporting that data in the form of a research paper, this would be called an empirical paper. This is basically data based, not only literature review.
Okay. We are getting one question in our chat box that Prachi Tiwari is asking how to teach psychology at inter-college level. I mean, the
Mhm.
students at
Mhm.
their 12th class, like they are
How to teach
equally,
psychology at inter college?
yeah.
Right. Okay. First of all, I would like to say that this is the first step to make young minds really oriented towards this wonderful subject. Many students do not get an opportunity to study psychology at 11th or 12th because still many of the schools are not teaching it. Some of them, which have psychology in their syllabus as an optional subject in 11th or 12th, there what happens that most of the social science students or arts students used to take this subject, and whenever science students come in, they always have it in mind that this is a subsidiary subject, so you don't have to attend much classes, you don't have to focus much on it. I'm a science student, so I will either become a doctor or I will become an engineer or pursue fields like that. The beauty of psychology is that it is a perfect amalgamation of science and arts. You have papers like physiological basis of behavior, you have papers like neurocognition, you have papers like statistics, parametric and non-parametric, and multivariate statistics. Lots and lots of statistics is there. So people with scientific mind can really do wonders here. And we have it in our history as well, now. Freud was not from arts, even Skinner and Pavlov and many celebrated psychologists were basically physicists that or they were biologists. So science people have contributed a lot in this discipline. So the scientific temperament, if molded carefully into psychology, it would be a great thing for us. I'm not saying that it is not a great option for arts and social sciences, but arts and social sciences students already take it seriously. Science students do not. Because I used to study science at 11th, 12th also. In my graduation also, I did BSc Zoology, Chemistry and Psychology. So I know how science students take this subject. Arts people or social science people already take this subject very nicely and they are much inclined into it. First thing. So one thing that we can try, if there are people from science streams, we can tell them how appropriate it would be if they think of their career in this wonderful subject. Another important thing that we can do is just present psychology as interestingly as possible. What my mother did with me in class 10, I was very young, I had no idea what psychology is all about. But she used to tell me stories of these great psychologists. Like she used to tell me about the dream analysis of Freud. She took one or two case studies and then she told me these stories. She told me about the Pavlov's experiment. She told me about the Kohler, Kofta and Verdheimer's chimpanzee wala experiment. And that time it was very, oh, chimpanzee banana le paya, उसने knot खोल लिया. For me it was fascinating कि chimpanzee भी ऐसे कर सकता है, not only human beings. तो early stages में your teaching aptitude plays a great role in inspiring student. If you try to be very technical, very conventional, very orthodox type of teaching approach will not do in early years. उससे क्या होता है ना, students को भी लगता है कि oh my god, this is not my cup of tea perhaps. So in early years, even what we used to do in graduation first year also, we try ourselves to be very simple. And one more thing, invite questions from your students. When people come in graduation and for the first time they start studying psychology, and we start telling them about basic psychological process, in my class I experience a lot of questions. मैम मेरे पड़ोस में ऐसा हो रहा था तो क्या इसका भी कोई साइकोलॉजिकल मीनिंग है? मेरे घर में ऐसा हो रहा था तो इस कंसेप्ट के साथ जाएगा क्या? मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ था तो ये हो सकता है क्या? So what I used to do, that I invite all these queries and we try to have a discussion in the classroom. Whatever we had studied about that particular phenomena, whatever it is, and the case that somebody is reporting, whether it goes with it or not, we try to have a psychological analysis of that case in the classroom. That makes the classroom very lively. Students start interacting immediately. If one reports something, the other one also has something to say, and they will also come up with their ideas and their queries and things like that. So I think these strategies will work nicely in the teaching if you are if you are attempting to teach intermediate students.
Beautiful, ma'am. You enriched us with a wonderful approach to deal with those students. All right, so let us go with the next question. So we are seeing like almost every other day we are experiencing some new studies and findings about different areas within this. So according to you, how has the landscape within psychology research transformed over time, and also any new areas or particular trends that have piqued your interest in the current scenario?
Right. A very interesting question and very useful question. If we try to trace the growth of psychology and the content of it, which captured the attention of researchers in this particular field, you will find that psychology started as being a part of philosophy. It was not an independent subject earlier. It used to be a part of philosophy. Then gradually it became independent, and many of the science people joined psychology. So sudden change in the approach with which the psychological research was being taken brought about two major differences. First, in the content, and the other one in the methodology. So, when we trace the growth of psychology, we will talk about both these things: the content, how it has been changed over years, and the methodology, the central methodology, which has been, adopted by researchers at different phases of psychological research. So, when psychology used to be a part of philosophy, it used to deal with abstract ideas more and more. Because what philosophy used to do, no doubt, it is the datum for all science we have today. But at the same time, it had a methodology of its own, which emanates from the argument and logics and different kind of rational thinking procedures. You give one argument and then you counter it and then you propose something else and things like that. But experimentation or data didn't had a place here. So initial contents, even psychology, if you analyze the name, psycho used to refer to mind, and logos used to refer the discipline or the study of it. And mind is something which you cannot scientifically define till date. So abstract ideas used to dominate the field of psychology. Once it became independent under the increasing influence of science and scientific people, the content changed and it became very practical. That you can define, things that you can observe, things that you can measure. So you find an upsurge in the content, like experiments based on reaction time, then experiments in intelligence, measurement of intelligence started, and measurement of different kind of psychological attributes started. Now, what you see that initial streams of psychology, the conventional streams of psychology encompasses clinical psychology, of course, followed by industrial psychology and other the psychometric analysis, etc., which started growing in during World War II and World War One. Later on, people became more open to include more and more topics into the area of psychology. And why this happened? It happened because they found that uh, as a psychologist, our job is to understand, explain, describe, and predict human behavior, and of course, to control it at its highest level. So, whatever could influence human behavior is technically a content of psychology. Correct? No matter if we can't take it up with the help of hardcore experiments. There's no harm in conducting field experiments or field studies or things like that. So, there was a period where the whole focus was on religiously following or observing the scientific steps to do the research, and therefore many of the topics which we were not able to take up this way were excluded or marginalized, but now what happened that the attention again shifted to the content, because largely we had an aim of understanding human behavior and predicting human behavior, controlling it, and things like that. So you find emergence of social psychology, right? Otherwise, we used to have experimental psychology. We used to have, that verbal learning experiments and many topics, and the reaction time concept and many theories of psychophysics that Fechner and Weber, they all came in. So this awareness that we need to have more and more and more and more themes into the mainstream of psychology. We have social psychology, then social psychology gave rise to organizational behavior, which was an outcome of industrial psychology as well as social psychology, a more advanced form of industrial psychology, you can say. At the same time, we started having different kind of disciplines peeping in. Still, the approach of psychology was to treat what is wrong with human behavior. Basic approach, no matter which discipline you are talking about, the basic approach was to treat what is wrong about human behavior. And another remarkable thing about psychology was that it has been Western dominated since beginning. We used to study European theories, Western concepts, and we used to take it as if it is a universal thing. If something happens in London, it will happen everywhere in the world. If something happens in United States, it has to be happen similarly in India as well. Later on, what happened in the post-independence phase, you find researchers started objecting on this very notion. And many stalwarts of Indian psychology, like Professor Durganand Sinha used to be there, Professor Jayavallabh Prasad Sinha used to be there, then Professor Janak Pandey, he is also there in the big names, and professors and researchers in different parts of the country, they arose and they started arguing that okay, there's no harm in adopting theories and tools and ideas from the West, but let's check it once in our own paradigm whether it goes well or not. Similar kind of discussions were going on in other parts of the world as also, like Korea, like China. Many people used to think that perhaps this Western school of thought doesn't fit nicely in all cultural frames. So people started thinking in terms of their cultural realities. And this gave birth to a relatively recent idea of cultural and cross cultural psychology. Okay. Now, this is a very established field, very growing field. More and more people are joining this idea, and even in hardcore psychology, in any discipline, you will be having one or two concepts regarding this, and people now have become very conscious while generalizing their ideas, because they now accept that culture also plays a role. Otherwise, culture or social variables used to be the extraneous variables in our study, which we used to control in our research. But what happened with this approach was, when you control cultural realities and you oversimplify the situation, you conclude something from your research, the generalizability of those findings is very poor. You cannot predict and control human behaviors if you have really studied them in without their context. Okay, so generalization was poor, predictive power was lacking, and controllability was again lacking. So, gradually, if you trace the landscape, you will find that people are now becoming aware that there are streams of psychology, no doubt, but those streams of psychology should include the cultural realities in their study, in their research. So, this mere idea was growing. So, we have cultural and cross cultural psychology. Another major shift happened in 1990s, when people started arguing that if psychology is really a powerful thing to predict and control human behavior, to change human behavior at all, why should we keep it for people who are suffering only? Why not people who are in a good shape can be targeted? Why not they can get a benefit out of this thought and knowledge system, and they can make their life better, right? So this discussion resulted in the formation of positive psychology. Positive psychology came in almost 1990s, okay, and in the rest of the world, in western part of the world, it came a little early, but in India, it was growing in the decade of 1990s and later. So positive psychology came in. And another important shift in the research paradigm, if you think of it, is in terms of the application of psychology. People try to study it in terms of its application because it is highly applicable subject. You know, so we think the streams like sports psychology, forensic psychology, and even somewhere I was reading the role of psychologist in NASA and ISRO and places like that. So it emerged like that. More recently, if you talk about the research trends and the content of psychology, I would say that psychology has now become multidisciplinary, and we are witnessing branches which draws from two or three branches of psychology, or maybe a branch of psychology and some other discipline as well. For example, evolutionary psychology, anthropology, psychology, sociology, and even genetics taken together. That is why we are studying epigenetic influences in psychology nowadays, that how our culture, our behavior are going to form our genes in the long run. You know, it is very common that we used to say that if you keep your lifestyle healthy, you can manage diabetes well. Diabetes is a genetic disorder. No, we have a particular genes which gradually slows the production of insulin and things like that. But what happens when you do exercise? What happens if you take healthy food? You are capable of delaying the expression of your genes, right? Similarly, if I say that intelligence is hereditary, or if I say that aggression is hereditary, how my socialization process or how my behavior, the way I deal with it, going to change my genes, the expression of my genes in the long run. So this field is now getting interdisciplinary. Forensic psychology withdraws from physiological psychology, neurology, clinical psychology, many more things. Similarly, we have social cognition. Cognitive psychology is a big field. And initially, we used to experiment with the basic cognitive processes like memory, forgetting, and learning, and this and that. Nowadays, we are trying to apply all these cognitive concepts in different fields of psychology. That is why we have social cognition. So, what happened if I make use of all these cognitive processes for processing the informations about people who surround me, about what is happening in the society and things like that. So now I would say that the research trend is becoming more multidisciplinary. Another aspect is it has become much more application oriented. So now, if you look at the research projects which are being made and submitted to various funding agencies, they are more targeted about a particular social problem or a particular problem which they need to intervene in. So it has become multidisciplinary, it has become application oriented. And the same way, if you trace the methodology, it is from experiment, from logic to experimentation to quasi experimentation. And now qualitative methods are strongly coming in. Many of the major institutions are taking up researches through qualitative methods. And if you look at the requirement of leading journals which are published by SAGE, they always ask you to make use of multi-method studies, triangulation of method, where we are using more than one method, a quantitative as well as an interview schedule complemented or something like that. So from logic to experimentation to quasi experimentation, then to qualitative, and now we have resulted in settled down in mixed method studies. So for me, this has been the journey of psychology in the last century or thing time frame. Yeah. Nandini, I'm not able to hear you at all. I'm sorry.
Is it
Yeah. Better. Some sort of noise is there. I don't know.
Nandini, you're not audible. So could you change your mic, maybe your source of mic? Till then, what we can do is that we can take on the questions which are there in the chat box, and
Yeah.
you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are almost heading towards the last questions. So I
Yeah.
would ask our listeners to be prepared with your doubts and queries. Okay, so ma'am, one question from my side will be like recently a notice has been published by UGC regarding the eligibility criteria for giving PhD exams. So बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स जो हैं वो इससे अग्री भी कर रहे हैं कि 4 इयर्स के बैचलर्स के बाद नेट का अटेम्प्ट देना इज ओके, बट सम ऑफ देम आर अगेंस्ट इट टू. सो आप इसको कैसे डिस्क्राइब करेंगी अगर उन बच्चों के लिए जो इसे समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं कि अभी ये क्या ओवरऑल प्रोसीजर है, और इन लॉन्ग टर्म इस डिसीजन के क्या बेनिफिट्स हो सकते हैं, लाइक क्या प्रोज और क्या कॉन्स हो सकते हैं स्टूडेंट्स के लिए. सो प्लीज टेल अस समथिंग अबाउट दैट.
ओके. तो रिसेंटली अभी हम सब ने जो नोटिस देखा which was issued by UGC, it says that students who pursue 4-year undergraduate program, all those will be eligible to appear in NET examination directly after completing their UG, and they will be eligible to take admission in PhD as well. So uh, a doubt which obviously arises here, that if everything is to be done just after UG, what is the use of post graduation, or are they going to scrap the PG courses in the long run gradually? ऐसा लगता नहीं है. एक्चुअली क्या होता है कि अभी तक हमारे यहाँ ट्रेडिशनल 3 इयर्स यूजी प्रोग्राम था. उस यूजी प्रोग्राम के साथ में प्रॉब्लम ये होती थी कि इफ यू वांट टू गो फॉर PG courses in any other foreign university, then no foreign university used to recognize that 3 years graduation program. So practically, students who went out for PG programs in foreign universities, they had to take a bridge course in between so that they can prove their eligibility for doing masters in those universities. And sometimes the universities were very rigid and they used to ask to repeat the graduation. So it was a huge waste of time. So this 4-year UG program is basically an idea which is brought in the education system in order to remove this discrepancy between the Indian degrees and the foreign degrees, है ना? This will basically save the students time if they want to pursue masters in any of the foreign universities. Initially it was very difficult. तो इसमें ऐसी कोई दिक्कत की चीज नहीं है. प्लस यूजीसी ने 3 इयर्स प्रोग्राम को बंद नहीं किया है. इफ यू वांट टू do something in your own country and you are satisfied with the 3 years UG program, you can do that. It is a multiple exit and entry system ना. तो अगर आप एक साल भी अंडर ग्रेजुएशन करते हो और फिर फॉर सम रीजन सपोज यू हैव टू लीव दैट कोर्स, सपोज, तो आपका वो एक साल वेस्ट हो जाता था. अभी क्या हो गया कि आपको उसके अगेंस्ट डिप्लोमा मिलेगा. ओके, फिर उसके बाद आप 2 इयर्स करोगे तो आपको 2 इयर्स की भी डिग्री मिलेगी. आप 3 साल करोगे तो आपको फुल डिग्री मिलेगी. ऑफ कोर्स अगर आप 4 साल करते हैं तो आप ऐसे सोचिए कि आप 1 साल का एक्स्ट्रा टाइम दे रहे हैं और 1 साल एक्स्ट्रा सिलेबस पढ़ रहे हैं जो अभी तक आपके पास नहीं था. Obviously, the eligibility of students who pursue 4 years graduation course will be better than those who pursue 3 years ग्रेजुएशन कोर्स. ऑब्वियसली कोई बीए पार्ट 1 से अगर एग्जिट कर जाता है तो आप उसको और बीए थर्ड ईयर के स्टूडेंट्स को कंपेयर तो नहीं कर सकते. यू हैव टू गिव सम एडिशनल बेनिफिट्स टू दोज हु कंप्लीट 1 एडिशनल ईयर ऑफ देयर स्टडी. दिस इज द बेसिक आइडिया. दूसरा आइडिया ये है कि जो पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन होगा वो उन सीन्स के लिए ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट रह जाएगा. अब जहां प्रोफेशनल कोर्सेज हैं, जहां पर स्किल्स की रिक्वायरमेंट है या जहां कुछ स्पेशलाइजेशन रिक्वायर्ड है. अदरवाइज आप नेट और पीएचडी जैसी चीजें अगर डायरेक्टली कर सकते हैं तो पीजी के ऊपर लोड भी कम होगा. करेक्ट. अभी पीजी में आपको सीट नहीं मिलती थी एंड एवरीबडी यूज टू रन आफ्टर दैट. अब जिनको सच में उन पर्टिकुलर स्किल्स की जरूरत है वो ही उस कोर्स को अटेम्प्ट करेंगे और जिनको रिसर्च में और एकेडमिया में इंटरेस्ट है उनके लिए एक और ओपनिंग है, एक तरह से एक और पाथ है जो आपके लिए क्रिएट हो गया. सो आई थिंक देयर इज नथिंग रॉन्ग इन इट और हम लोगों को कोई बहुत वरीड होने की जरूरत इसके बारे में नहीं है. बल्कि अच्छा है, अभी भी बहुत सारे ऐसे सब्जेक्ट्स हैं जिन्होंने अंडर ग्रेजुएशन में डिजर्टेशन कंपलसरी कर रखा है. करेक्ट. सो इफ यू डू अ डिजर्टेशन तो ऑब्वियसली आपको कुछ रिसर्च एक्सपीरियंस भी मिल ही गया है एंड देन यू कंप्लीट 4 इयर्स ऑफ योर अंडर ग्रेजुएशन प्रोग्राम. देन I think it's a good opening. This will save 1 year of your academic life. You just think, if you do it in the conventional manner, then 3 years of graduation plus 2 years of post graduation, total 5 years. And after 5 years, you become eligible for appearing in NET examination or pursuing your PhD degree. But now what will happen? Just after 4 years, you are capable of doing everything. So you are saving 1 year of your life. And time is, so allowed to do everything in a shorter period of time. I think this is good. This will save your time, save your effort, and this will reduce the load on the professional postgraduate courses wherever it is needed.
ऑलराइट मैम, आपने बहुत ही सिंपली इसको क्लैरिफाई कर दिया. अदरवाइज आई थिंक कि अभी भी बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स में कंफ्यूजन्स बना हुआ था. सो इन शॉर्ट आई थिंक इट्स अ प्लस पॉइंट फॉर दोज हु वांट टू परस्यू देयर स्टडीज फ्रॉम अब्रॉड नाउ. ओके, सो नाउ
वो भी है और प्लस ये भी आप समझ सकते हैं कि ये जो 4 इयर्स का प्रोग्राम आ रहा है इससे क्या होगा कि आपका, अगर आप इंडियन सेटिंग में भी रह रहे हो तो भी आपका 1 साल बचा. प्लस 4 इयर्स ग्रेजुएशन प्रोग्राम सिर्फ उन लोगों के लिए होगा जो लेटर ऑन लाइफ में पीएचडी के लिए जाना चाहते हैं. अदरवाइज अगर आप 3 इयर्स ग्रेजुएशन कंप्लीट करते हो तो आपको वो सारे बेनिफिट मिलेंगे जो अभी मिल रहे हैं, उसमें से कुछ भी कर्टेल नहीं होने जा रहा है. तो 4 ईयर प्रोग्राम बेसिकली है ही उनके लिए जो हायर स्टडीज में जाना चाहते हैं, आइदर इन इंडिया और इन अब्रॉड.
ओके मैम, गॉट इट. सो नाउ एज वी आर रनिंग टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ आवर टाइम, सो अब मैं कुछ चैट बॉक्स से क्वेश्चंस ले लेती हूँ सो दैट वी कैन रैप इट अप आल्सो. So Urvashi is asking, I have an engineering background and I want to pursue my future career in research psychology. How should I proceed?
Well, Urvashi, I must congratulate you that you have made a very wise choice. You are from an engineering background and you have come to psychology. So ergonomics is the field open for you. it will welcome you like anything. Ergonomics is human engineering, where we try to study the man-machine relationships, right? We improvise the designs of our machines as complicated as the cockpit of a fighter plane and as simple as pressure cooker, right? So a big field is waiting for you. I think try ergonomics, study some good books about it, and uh, you will be instantly interested in that. Otherwise, you can pursue your research interest in any of the field. Research field, they are all good. You can try yourself in cognition as well, because now we have models, computer simulated models of human cognition. So that may be another interesting field for you. If you have some background of biology, you can try cognitive neurosciences also. So these are some fields which I think you may be interested in, and you may find yourself very good in designing and developing new research questions also.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope, Urvashi, you got clear with your question. Now, next question is from Lovely. If anyone wants to prepare for NET JRF, especially in the final year of masters, how can we start? Please suggest some good books for it also.
If you want to prepare for NET examination, let me tell you, MA final is the best time to crack this exam. People have this misconception in their mind that okay, after completing their masters, they will have one more year to prepare and then they will come up nicely for examination. It doesn't happen. NET syllabus is completely based on what you study in your graduation and post graduation years. So my suggestion would be, have a standard good book of general psychology at hand and begin with that. Hilgard, Atkinson and Atkinson is a good book. Now you have many other books. So now there is a number of books. Whatever you find interesting, whatever you find more comprehensible, just take that book and go through it in detail. And then please depend on the books suggested in your syllabus to prepare for NET. Do not rely on any claims made by people that okay, this is a guidebook for NET and this is a key of answers which you prepare and then you can crack NET. Nothing happens. For every paper, you have to take a basic book. For example, if you are reading about physiological psychology, you can pick up the book of Calet and Carlson. If you are preparing about personality psychology, you can go through Lindsay, Holland, Campbell. If you are preparing about, psychometrics, you can read Guilford, you can read Cohen and books like that. So select a very basic and good book for each paper and try to build up your concept based on that. Another thing is, no, do not mug up the knowledge simply. Memorizing will not help you. If you learn a particular concept, try to think how this concept will reflect itself in your daily life, how you can apply this concept to different situations, because nowadays in NET examination this generalization of knowledge is very much questioned about. बार बार वो ऐसी चीजें लेकर आते जहां वो देख सके कि आपने पढ़ा तो है, लेकिन अगर जरूरत पड़े तो आप अप्लाई कर सकते हैं कि नहीं. अभी रिसेंटली नेट के पेपर में एक चीज आई, एक क्वेश्चन जिसको लेकर स्टूडेंट्स में कंफ्यूजन था. सो दे वर डिस्कसिंग अबाउट इट कि आईक्यू अगर किसी का हाई है तो उसे क्या मिलने का चांस ज्यादा है, एक साइंटिफिक अवार्ड, हैप्पीनेस, एक अच्छी जॉब और एक कोई और ऑप्शन था. सो वो ये नहीं पूछ रहे कि आईक्यू क्या होता है, आईक्यू की थ्योरीज क्या है, आईक्यू को कैसे कैलकुलेट करते हैं, व्हाट इज द फॉर्मूला ऑफ डूइंग इट. वो ये कह रहे कि एक व्यक्ति है और इफ द आईक्यू इज रियली हाई, व्हाट द पर्सन इज मोर लाइकली टू गेट इन लाइफ. सी व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एप्लीकेशन ओरिएंटेड अप्रोच इट इज. तो आप जो भी पढ़ते हो, एक बुक हर पेपर के लिए जरूर, एक अच्छी किताब ले लें जो आपके सिलेबस में रिफर्ड हो, जो एक अच्छे रिप्यूटेड ऑथर ने लिखी हो और जिसका कवरेज अच्छा हो. ठीक है, बहुत शॉर्ट में जो बुक्स चीजों को डिस्कस करती है वो बहुत बार आपको नेट में हेल्प नहीं कर पाती. तो अच्छी किताबें लें हर पेपर के लिए, पुराने साल के क्वेश्चन पेपर्स को जरूर देखें, उसके हिसाब से प्रिपेयर करें, और आप जो भी पढ़ रहे हैं उसको सोचें कि आप कैसे अप्लाई कर पाएंगे लेटर लाइफ।
In short, choosing a good book is the golden choice in this stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so a question from Akansha. I have a question regarding current change in MPhil courses that it is eligible for next 2 years. Like the MPhil has changed into MSci, so I think she is asking for that information. What about all these matters?
The relevance of MSci course or what?
Akansha, if you could unmute yourself and speak up on your questions, it would be better for a clearance. Can you please? Akansha, sorry, you are not audible properly. Okay, let me try to sort out the question. I guess she's
Okay,
asking. Yeah,
is it suitable? I think. Is
yeah.
it relevant or not? Well,
Yeah.
MSci course or MPhil course is relevant for those who want to work as clinical psychologists in future, because this is the course during which you get your RCI registration number, which is must to have if you want to work as an independent practitioner in the field. Okay, so I won't recommend doing MSci to everyone, but if you are genuinely interested in clinical psychology and you want to become clinical psychologist, or even if you are interested in becoming a counselor, school counselor, or counsel and a family counselor or whatever, I would highly recommend this course, because MSci gives you ample opportunity to acquire and practice practical skills regarding counseling and therapy. But
Okay.
those who wants to follow academia or research career, they may skip this course easily. Not really important for everyone.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I hope, Akansha, your question is cleared. Okay, Shreya. Okay, 1 minute. I'm checking on your question, Shreya. Okay. What are the skills needed to pursue a career in academics and research, and how can one excel in these skills?
What are the skills required for academia and research? Well, the very first skill is to remain as a learner, not only in your graduation and post graduation years, but years after that as well. Continuously keep an eye over what is happening in the field, what kind of statistics is being used, what kind of papers are being written, what kind of methodology is being used in the field. If you don't know these things, try to learn them from anywhere. You can join a workshop, you can learn through books, you can get a guidance from others who are more experienced. So, updating yourself in the content and skills is important. One should be good at writing skills, and one should be good at abstract thinking also. Because when you are doing research, you are basically playing with ideas. What you get at the end of your data analysis is a number. T ratio, F ratio, correlation coefficient, number, number, and number. And then it is the researcher who has to derive a meaning out of this number. The deeper you dive into the meaning, the better researcher you become. So, your argumentation, your abstract thinking capacity, your analytical skills, your writing skills, your communication skills, everything goes very integrally in making you successful in the career of research and academics. And how we acquire them, we acquire little by little every day, if we want to, of course.
All right, so Priyadi, I hope you are clear with this. Okay, Lovely is asking one more question. Like, I wanted to pursue diploma in guidance and counseling from BHU. If you could please share something about it.
Well, Diploma in Guidance and Counseling is a specialized course which offer you with the state-of-the-art knowledge about the counseling skills as well as ample opportunities to practice it, and also an internship program at the end of the course, which usually lasts for 2 months or so. So, I think it is a very good course for those who want to become counselor. It is a time saving course, very well structured and packed, and it gives you a nice balance of theory and practice in the field. So, if you want to become a counselor, I think it is very good to join 1 year diploma in guidance and counseling from any reputed institute like BHU, of course.
Okay, Akriti is asking, pursuing a PhD or even MPhil in psychology is a long journey. They might come across many responsibilities financially, personally. How to deal with feeling overwhelmed and burnt out?
Very important questions and very tricky questions as well. Um, all of us have our own ways of dealing with burnouts and frustrations. Yes, of course, it is a long journey, and excuse me, and you will come across many obstacles in between. Sometimes you will feel yourself overwhelmed, लेकिन होता क्या है कि जब आप ऐसे सिचुएशन में है ना, try to speak to others, and quickly you will get to know that you are not all alone who have been in this kind of problem. There are many others who have faced these problems. Then what happens that while talking to others, while seeking help from others, you come across many ideas and solutions which they have opted in for solving their own problem. Now there may be one of it which you find suitable for yourself as well. हो सकता है आपको कोई ऐसे ना लगे ऑप्शन या सॉल्यूशन जो बिल्कुल आपके ऊपर अप्लाई करते हैं, बट देन इट विल गिव यू एन आइडिया कि अच्छा ठीक है, इसको थोड़ा सा मॉडिफाई करते हैं एंड आई कैन ट्राई दिस. सो वेन एवर यू फील ओवरवेल्म, प्लीज डोंट कीप इट विद यू. ओपन अप, डिस्कस थिंग्स विद अदर्स. जो भी आपके सेम फील्ड के लोग हैं, आपके कलीग्स हैं या आपके टीचर्स हैं, आपसे कुछ साल ज़्यादा फील्ड में बिता चुके हैं, उनके साथ में बात करें, वो हमेशा काम करता है. अगर आपको फ्रस्ट्रेशन हो रहा है और आपको लग रहा है कि आप सच में फंस गए हैं, इंट्रोस्पेक्शन ऑलवेज वर्क. Just sit comfortably and quietly and try to review your own ideas. आपका एक्चुअल ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या था? बहुत बार जो स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं ना, वो साइकोलॉजी में आते हैं बिकॉज दे ओनली हैव क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजी इन माइंड. इसी वाले पार्ट से उनका परिचय होता है नॉर्मली. what is psychology? It deals with people with some sort of problems, mental health issues, तो वो यही आइडिया लेकर के आते हैं, इसी आइडिया को परस्यू कर लेते हैं, और जब वो एक्चुअली डील करना शुरू करते हैं people who are suffering from any sort of problem, then they find it very difficult. It is very difficult क्योंकि उनकी जो फीलिंग्स हैं, उनके जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, कहीं ना कहीं वो आपकी खुद की मेंटल हेल्थ को अफेक्ट करने लगते हैं. So if you find at any point of time that you have made probably a wrong choice, it is never too late to come back and begin again. हाँ, तो जब भी आप जा रहे हैं, अगर आपको सीरियसली लगता है कि प्रॉब्लम है एंड यू आर नॉट एबल टू डू दैट, तो बिल्कुल हेजिटेट ना करें अपनी डिसिप्लिन को चेंज करने में. आई एम नॉट asking you to switch from psychology to any other discipline. I'm asking you to switch from one branch of it to any other branch which you find more suitable, more interesting for yourself. Okay. And always, if you are worried, if you are overwhelmed, if you are fatigued, if you are frustrated, give yourself some time to breathe. जरूरी नहीं है कि आप हर समय अपने आप को टैक्स करें, हर समय गिल्ट में जाएं और हर समय ये कहें कि ओ आई शुड हैव डन इट, मैंने क्यों नहीं किया, मैं क्यों नहीं कर पाया. इट इज वेरी नेचुरल दैट समटाइम्स यू वोंट बी एबल टू डू. सब लोगों के साथ ऐसा होता है. तो उस टाइम अपने आप को बहुत ज्यादा पुश करने की बजाय कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि आप अपने आप को एक ब्रेक दें। वो जो ब्रेक होगा ना, वो आपको इंट्रोस्पेक्शन का भी टाइम होगा, आपकी जो पेंट अप इमोशंस है उनमें कैथार्सिस का भी टाइम होगा, और एक तरह से आपको रिजुविनेशन की अपॉर्चुनिटी भी देगा। और उस टाइम को आप यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं फॉर मेकिंग डिस्कशन विद अदर एक्सपीरियंस्ड पीपल एंड विद योर कलीग्स, so that you get new ideas to handle your own problem. Ultimately, all these things collectively work well in this kind of situation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I think now we are left with last two questions. So the one is it okay? Like Lovely is asking, ma'am, my friend cleared net by IGNOU's book. So is it suitable?
Yes, of course. IGNOU study material is very standard, and they base their study materials on good books only. So you can have a look on, you can have a look of those books also. No issues. IGNOU का study material is good. अगर आपके पास इग्नू का स्टडी मटेरियल नहीं है तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको इग्नू से मंगाना पड़ेगा। आपके जो सिलेबस की बुक्स है, मेक यूज ऑफ दोज बुक्स, दे रियली हेल्प, they are very good books which are prescribed in your syllabus.
Okay, so now I'm having a last question. Drishti is asking, ma'am, please suggest some organizations in Varanasi where I, as a BA third year student, can have some experience of research and internships.
Research and
Internships.
internship, okay. Well, there are many organizations which are offering things like that. Depends upon what kind of experience you want to get. If you want to gain clinical psychology and counseling experiences, then you can visit institutes like Nai Subha Deva Center, and there is another center by Dr. Usha Verma Srivastav at Kabir Chora. And let me tell you that our VKM students are very smart, and many of our alumni have started NGOs of their own, which provide extension services as well as counseling services. One is Dr. Payal, and now she has become very experienced. She has a clinic somewhere in Karaundi near Sundarpur, and Dr. Poorna is there. She worked as a counselor in Sunbeam, and she has started her NGO, her own platform. Then many of our students who are living in Delhi, etc., they offer internship programs like that. So if you wish, you can just ask alumni of VKM and they will help you. So for clinical and counseling experiences, if you want to get experience in social work, suppose you want to enter into psychiatric social work or psychological social work, then there are many NGOs who are offering you internship courses for that, with which you can embellish your social skills by interacting with people. So, how to collect data, how to build rapport with people, how to talk to them so that you can interview people correctly, or how to approach marginalized or sensitive people. Like if there is a research program, PhD program going in BHU, and the student is working with the third gender people, the transgender people. So, working with this kind of sensitive or marginalized group requires a lot of skills, interview skills, and the skill to gain confidence of the other people. So, NGOs can help you this way. If you want to do specialization or gaining experience in statistical analysis and test development, there is an institute in Kolkata. I'm just forgetting the name, but that institution, I think Statistical Institute, something like that, it is there in Kolkata. So they offer test development experience and data analysis experience once a year. They also give this advertisement, and through that you can join. You can also do an internship in DIPR, the Defense Institute of Psychological Research. So if you are interested working with the army people, DIPR also offers you elaborated internship programs. At the end of your program, you have to write a thesis, and this is a very good learning experience, how to develop questionnaires, how to collect data, how to write a research report, and things like that, right? So, there are many internship opportunities. First of all, you have to decide and prioritize your interest. What kind of skills do you want to get out of this internship program? And then you have suitable places. And even for organizational behavior, you can work with the places like we have Jalans here, so they allow internships there in HR department. Even our own students have gone there. Then this TCS, which is there in Mehmoorganj, if you ask them, they can arrange internships in organizational behavior. They can connect you to some big companies or places like that, and there you will be having experience in HR department also. So internship opportunities are plenty. But before selecting any internship, because obviously you are going to spend 2 months, 3 months there, you are going to spend your effort there, please be clear about your interest and priority regarding the skills you want to get.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So now I think we are all wrapped up with all the questions in the chat box. Please let me know if I have missed someone's question. Radhika Di, you have raised your hand. You have something to say, please.
Just wanted to thank ma'am personally for this very enlightening session. So when the session came up, I just knew that I had to contact ma'am, and she was my mentor in the dissertation, and I've been studying from her since the past 2 years. And my expectations were already very high, but this session was really exceptional and comprehensive. So thank you, ma'am, for this. That's it.
Thank you, Radhika. It was all because of your effort that I got an opportunity to participate in this brainstorming session, of course. Really good to be here. The kind of questions you people are asking shows how serious and sincere you are in pursuing your career. Thank you so much.
I think Radhika Ji has already thanked ma'am, but I should also take a chance to thank everyone. So thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate that you all gave up your time here, and I hope you all got to learn so much new things with us, with PsyConnect, and with ma'am. So yeah, hoping to see you all in the next month with some new topics to gain insights within. And thank you so much, ma'am, to share something very much new to us. We are really grateful and equally honorable to have you with us. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Nandini. Thank you, Radhika. And thanks to all the lovely participants who bear me so patiently for such a long time. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Now we are ending on the meeting. You